Hey everyone, this will be a new experience for me for sure. Maybe it will be for you, but I've never seen this kind of book before. It is God's Bible Timeline, and this is from Linda Finlayson, and the subtitle reads, The Big Book of Biblical History. Now, I don't think it is a big book. It's definitely big in length, as you can see, but width, no, it looks very thin, so I don't know what they mean by big. That's a little misleading, but I've never seen this book before. Maybe you haven't, and if you haven't, this will be a new experience for all of us, so let's just jump in right here. Before we do that, though, we see here that it says includes 18 timelines and a pull-out timeline poster, so we'll see what that's all about. Here we go. A big, wide book. It's really interesting, the dimensions that they chose, but when you think about it, it does make sense. If you're going to do a timeline, it's going to be very horizontal, so for it to be very long in length, it makes complete sense. So here we go. Understanding and reading timelines. So it kind of gives you an idea of the flow. It's going to go, top left to bottom left for most of them, I guess. And they'll have a key here where this will represent the promise of the Messiah, Judah's kings and province, Israel kings and province. These probably two are really important because, obviously the two kingdoms was a very long, contentious part of the Bible. And then covenants that God made, which are also many. So that's pretty cool that they've added that as helpful resources. And we got, I think, some endorsements here. Yeah, I think these are endorsements. Several of them here. And then I guess this would be if you want to give this to a person, put a special message in. All scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. And here are contents. Got a quick introduction and then our multiple parts, which likely will be our timelines. So we got 6 parts here. And here's our 1-page introduction here. And right away, we're in part 1. A pretty unique way of doing the text and columns. Really well done. You don't really see that often where they will actually slant the text a few degrees over. Don't see that often, so it's kind of cool they did that. And here's probably our very first timeline right here. This is what's going to make this book shine, is clearly what they stand behind and what their actual title is, are these timelines. So we got creation, naming the animals, the fall. And I must admit, I think there's so much value in timelines because there's just so much information in the Bible, and sometimes it's nice to know the order of events because the order really does matter. It's very important, and especially when you're trying to understand context into why these things happen and when they happened. And I'm glad there's a book out there that's trying to tackle this. And we go to the fall, and the whole point of this book is to go across the next page downwards and to the far left, which is exactly what they said at the opening pages of how you're supposed to read these timelines. So you got the exile, and of course the first children, the first murder. Of course, Cain kills his brother Abel. And then you got the early accomplishments, the birth of another child, Seth. And of course, how long people were living, the great evil. And then not too long, we get to Noah because it clearly didn't take long for wickedness to happen. And of course, we get the flood. God makes a covenant with Noah. And wow, they already get to the Tower of Babel. At the very end of this timeline, they're already talking about the Tower of Babel, which is another sort of rebellion against God. But they covered a lot in this one timeline. And really, all they did was the first 11 chapters of Genesis here. But then we have an awesome map here of Abraham's world. And under the part 1 of creation, because it's pretty clear they color code this, green being part 1, they're continuing on with Genesis. Yeah, this is really well detailed. I love the infographics. This is really well done, I must say, and this is where the key stands out. You have, here we go, the prophecy, the promise of the Messiah, and here are the covenants that God made, Judah's kings and prophets. So they just remind you of what's going on here. So for example, here, promise of the Messiah, we see it here in Genesis 49, where Israel, better known as Jacob, blesses his sons. And before he died, Israel blessed each of his sons. He gave his son Judah a special blessing that included a promise that his descendants would be kings and eventually the Messiah would come from his tribe. So there's that promise of the Messiah. But then over here we have a covenant that God made, God's covenant with Abraham. This is probably one of the most iconic covenants in the Bible, where God promised to make Abraham the father of many nations, including kings. God promised to take care of Abraham's descendants, provided they obeyed God. The sign of this covenant was that all males, beginning with Abraham and his household, would be circumcised. So this was a crucial promise that God made with Abraham. So this is where the key really does shine in this timeline. So really glad they did that. They have a really good combination, a really healthy combination of text, illustrations, maps, and information. And look, we are still in part 1. Now we go from Moses to Joshua, and we are now entering Exodus. So I must say, I'm really impressed with this timeline. I'm very happy with how it's communicating its ideas. And now we're into the second part, the timeline of Judges. And so, of course, we're in the book of Judges. And, of course, we'll eventually get to 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. Yeah, there's just a lot that they're putting here. This is really good. I actually am very impressed with what they've done. I don't know if there's anything better out there. This is a pretty recent release, so I hope this could be a more definitive, informational timeline of the Bible. And here we have the satin bookmark here right in the middle, and we're on to part 3, Solomon. They're sticking with the same repetitive format, which is awesome. If there is a more definitive timeline book than this, I'd like to know. I'm sure there's older ones. I'm not sure if there are newer ones out there, but if there's a more definitive one than this, I would like to know. But right now, this, obviously I have no choice but to say this is the most definitive one I've seen, but I'm open to seeing anything better than this. But right now, I'm really liking this format and what they're doing. We're into the exile and return, which is also another important timeline. Oh man, I'm really glad I got this book. This is another book I would just love to sit down and read. There's so much to learn from this. And I just think it's also important too, if you actually have a clear understanding of the order of events, I think you have a really good advantage of being able to speak to people. And especially for apologetics, for people who are apologists, if you know the correct order of things, I'm not saying it's always going to help, but there definitely is a capacity where this could be used to your advantage to really clarify, even amongst Christians who sometimes get the order of things wrong. I think it's important to know the order of things. It really does matter. So now we're into the transfiguration to the ascension. And now we're on to the early church. So this is probably in Acts, I'm going to assume. Yep, Acts it is. The church begins. So I'm just flipping through this just because I think it's the same format and I don't think there's much more they're doing. But I've yet to come across the poster that they talk about. We'll see, maybe it's at the end. But yeah, they have a nice combination of illustrations, but also colorful pictures, both illustrated and actual photos. This is a really well done, crafted book, I must say. Not sure if I'm a fan of how long the book is in terms of its physical length, but I don't think this is meant to just be a sit-down read. It definitely comes more across as a coffee table book. This is definitely something that's meant to be in your lap. But okay, we're at the end here. Acknowledgements, bibliography, the image index. Goodness, they have an index for this. So they have a timeline entry section. They have a description column. Then they have an image license attribution. Okay, well done. They covered their bases. So clearly a lot of this work isn't theirs, at least in the image part of this. And they definitely wanted to give credit to everyone. That's just being responsible and respectful. And about the author, so more books that Linda Finlayson has done. If Linda's seeing this, I'll just say this, she's done a tremendous job. And the fact that she's done even more books, that even impresses me more. These look like more reading books. Wow, she's done an incredible job. So find out more about church history. They have an alternate book here, God's Timeline, the big book of church history. And again, it looks like there's a pull-out timeline poster. They kind of show you a bit of an example of what it looks like. So boy, if I come across this, I may have to grab this as well. Oh, and look at that. Looks like this is what they're talking about, the poster here. Okay, and this thing is just super long. I apologize, it can't fit in the frame, but this is truly a compressed version of their entire book. That's pretty awesome. And here you can actually, they have a little, I don't know if you can see this, but it's a bit of a tearaway, so you can tear this away. But let's see what's on the other side. It has even more stuff. Well, then that kind of creates a new problem now, because if this is the poster, I'm not sure which side you pick, because if you're putting this on a wall, you're only going to see one side. So you kind of have to choose between a timeline versus a timeline of heroes and villains, and they're both pretty awesome, but kind of unfortunate that you are forced to pick between the two. That's probably the only constructive criticism I could really offer here. But just like that, I don't know if they had page numbers on here. Oh, they did. Yeah. So this is approximately, let's see here, approximately 93 pages, and including the poster, it probably brings you, you're looking at just under 100 pages. So not an overwhelming book. This is why I question why they call it a big book, because it's not. But I guess in respect to timelines, maybe it is. I think adults could really appreciate something like this. So here you have it, God's Bible Timeline. Definitely worth checking out, especially when you want to get a better understanding of chronological events.